While I agree that PBIS does have some benefits and is not all bad, why does it seem so ineffective?
So the three most common approaches are traditional consequences, PBIS, and restorative practices. The oldest one is traditional consequences. It's been around since schools have been in existence. And PBIS came around to be more commonplace in education sometime around to early to mid 2000, first part of this particular century. And so in restorative practice, social emotional learning has been come into the fold as of the beginning of the 2010s and all the way up to now. That's when you saw it to be very commonplace in education. The reason why all these pieces have come in is because things have evolved. And so with the evolution, the thinking has evolved and the approaches have had to evolve. And traditional consequences, the only reason why PBIS was even able to come in and be a part of the equation is because traditional consequences were no longer as effective as they were intended to be. And so that's where people were looking for something that was different. So that's where you started getting more, people were focused on if we have more structure, if we have more incentives in place. Those are things that will help help us manage behavior better, and in particular the interventions part of PBIS. All three of those things together really were going to support the behavior management system of a school. And the thing that most people did, and that it really was never intended to happen, was that they kept traditional consequences in place, but they started implementing PBIS as well. They started implementing the structured rewards and also the interventions. Where PBIS struggled when it really came in was the interventions never lived up to what they were expected to do and what they were sold that they were going to be able to do. And the reason why the interventions never lived up to it was because you can't create a script to manage human behavior. It's impossible. It's impossible to have a script that you can take whenever this happens to go do this. And that's where the frustration came with PBIS, because yeah, you may be able to use this particular script in this particular scenario and it may work in this instance, but it's not going to work in every instance. And there's a frustration when when you're said that this is going to do something to solve your problem and when it doesn't solve your problem. And so that's really where the challenge came, and that's really where the frustration came with PBIS. If you really think about PBIS over the course of when it has been implemented, the rewards of PBIS have been successful. They told us initially that the reward system of PBIS was going to help 85% of our kids. 85% of our kids would respond to the reward system of PBIS pretty consistently from campus to campus to campus. The 85% does pretty much hold true. The problem that people have, though, is that the majority of the problems come from 10 to 15% of the students on the campus. And so that 10 to 15% were supposed to be supported through the interventions of PBIS, and that's really where the struggle came. There really wasn't a support being put in place to address those specific students, and that's where you ran into that particular challenge.